All right, so the next thing we're going to get into is RedSwan. They are tokenizing real estate. I caught up with Don and Ed, two executives at that company, to run us through the latest of what they're doing, and they've created their own studio. So let's listen to what they have to say. Ed, Don, welcome. It seems like you gentlemen have been really busy lately.
Yes, we have. Thank you, Brandon. We're really happy to be here. It's been a lot going on in the space, and we're excited to talk about a few of these things that are going on today.
Yeah, great to join you, Brandon.
Well, it's absolutely my pleasure. Thank you both for coming. To start off, Ed, can you explain why you would want to tokenize real estate in the first place?
Well, digital is always better than non-digital. I mean, I think we can all attest to that. Our digital TVs, HD, is much better than our analog TVs. But with regards to tokenized assets, when you digitize an asset, you're actually making it far better in terms of efficiency, transactional efficiency, but also in the case of real estate, liquidity factors. So I think people, given the option to be able to invest in real estate, which is typically an illiquid asset, if you're able to invest in a version of real estate that allows you to have liquidity, whether or not the asset becomes sold, is definitely something that people were going to say, yes, I want that option, as opposed to being trapped for who knows how long it might take to be able to get your money out. So that by itself, I think, is a major winner for the investment industry. But the efficiencies to be able to buy something without going through numerous intermediaries and paying all these additional costs, I think provides a big savings for the investor as well.
The democratization of finance, it makes perfect sense. And of course, Hedera is adding those efficiencies across the board in our space. Now, Don, you are part of the technical team there at RedSwan. In the Hedera ecosystem, we've heard a lot about the Stablecoin Studio that's been put out by Swirlds Labs, but you've created your own studio. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So we've actually had a relationship with Hedera now, I think, for over 5 years, and so it's been a long time coming. We're really excited that we're now working hand in hand with Hedera and Swirlds Labs on some new projects to bring security tokens support to the Hedera platform. So to get that going, the first thing we did is we're working on a new security token standard. It's actually derived from ERC 1400, but then extended specifically to support some of the use cases we think are particularly important. So that's going to be released for the whole Hedera ecosystem. Obviously, having a security standard is one thing, but you actually need to be able to mint those tokens. And so that's where the Token Studio comes in. So we're also designing a Token Studio that's going to, again, be ultimately open source to the whole Hedera community, so that anybody that wants to create a security token on the Hedera platform will be able to do so.
That's very exciting stuff, Don. So I'm going to talk about the market itself here. And Ed, I'm going to go to you. So who's on the supply side? Who's currently tokenizing using RedSwan? And how do you see that expanding in the future?
Well, it took a while to kind of educate the market of real estate owners. In our case, we only focus on commercial real estate. But now that the market of real estate is being challenged by high costs of debt, if you can get debt at all, equity and capital are very, very important to sponsors. And so we're seeing more and more sponsors who need capital to recapitalize their stack of equity so they can pull out some equity rather than sell the property in a time that's not profitable. Like right now is not a good time. It's not appropriate. We're seeing owners who are saying, hey, I want to tokenize my asset. I want to tokenize my debt. I'd like to release some of the equity that's trapped in my asset right now. And RedSwan provides a great solution for that, because now if they have a $100 million asset with $50 million worth of debt, that's $50 million of their equity that's trapped in this property. The only option before would be sell the property to release all their equity, but then they don't have that goose that lays the golden eggs anymore. This way, they can recapitalize, say, $40 million of that equity and be able to now still maintain the asset and ride the value back up. So in cases like we're seeing today where cash is very difficult, this is a very, very good tool for sellers to take advantage of.
And now I'd like to ask about the demand side. Who is and will be buying these tokens, and what does that process look like?
Well, who's been buying before has been parties interested in particular types of real estate, buying it in a tokenized fashion. They're thinking about the future of how they can take advantage of having security tokens. But now, as we've seen further adoption in the market, as you mentioned, there's a lot of stable coins coming into market. There's Visa coming to market accepting cryptocurrency. There's JP Morgan Bank accepting deposits of stable coins. So the ecosystem of stable coins and cryptocurrency is growing. We already surpassed $3 trillion of value, and I think it's going to continue to increase. Well, these are the people who are going to need optionality to buy other types of investments that are already in a digital form. So when you start looking at those who are invested more in cryptocurrencies and stable coins and now want to start looking at how they can diversify their investments into other types of alternative investments, these are going to be the buyers who are jumping all over digital real estate because it gives them the best of all worlds. They get the anchor of very strong and low risk real estate with a decent yield, but they also get that liquidity opportunity, so if they want to get out of it, they can, rather than have to wait a long time for an exit. So I think you're going to find a lot of people who have digital wallets right now who've been currently holding on to a lot of and hodling a lot of cryptocurrency are going to start diversifying. We're also seeing institutional companies that we're talking to who are very keen on converting a certain percentage of their assets under management to be digital assets under management. And so whether it be financial instruments or real estate securities, they're very excited about being able to have that on their balance sheet. And then finally, when we've talked to many of the broker-dealers in the world and also the IRAs, registered investment advisors, typically real estate is excluded from an IRA's balance sheet as they're managing their customer investments, because it's not a liquid type of investment, so it's off the balance sheet. Now that we are digitizing real estate into shares, it now becomes on the balance sheet, so now IRAs get to put their customers into a real estate asset and be able to charge asset under management fees for that because they can include it with the other assets that they're managing for their customers. So it's a variety of people who are very interested in this asset class.
Very exciting. Now, I'm curious about the future. I want to put our futurist hats on here real quick. First, we'll start with Don. What are you most excited about for the future when it comes to features for RedSwan?
Yeah, absolutely. There's going to be, as Ed already mentioned, the ability to do what we call issuance, which is to issue these digital securities to investors all around the world. I think in terms of democratization of finance, this is probably the biggest, if not one of the biggest opportunities, because now you can have investors all over the world that could never dream of owning top tier real estate, buying into that at levels that they can actually afford. So I think that's also, from an impact perspective, going to make a big difference for a lot of people in a lot of parts of the world that don't usually get those opportunities. Also looking forward beyond that, as Ed also mentioned, there's the liquidity piece. So the end game here is basically a NASDAQ for real estate, where people can trade in and out of these assets in the same way, in the same ease that they trade on E-Trade right now in the stock market. And I think that's going to be a true game changer globally.
And Ed, what are your thoughts on the future? Is there anything else you'd like to pass on before we let you go?
Well, I think that it is the future. It's happening right now. People keep talking about what's going to happen 5 to 10 years from now. It's happening right now. We've tokenized over $5 billion worth of assets. We just had another major assignment in the multi-billion-dollar level, and it's going to continue. Major corporations are calling us. They want to look at their funds. When they were traditionally offering funds that were not in a digital form, they're now looking to digitize those funds because, let's face it, it's much easier for a large institution like BlackRock to not have to pay out redemption to their clients. If you tokenize, they can buy these shares at, like Don said, at a price they can afford, but now the redemption is up to the end user to sell their shares on the open exchange. Just is a major game changer for the entire industry. So let's not talk about the future. Let's talk about right now, because it's happening today.
Well, that's absolutely music to our ears. Thank you both for coming on and explaining everything, and good luck.
Thank you, Brandon. Appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks, Brandon.